Hey, welcome to Early Access Control, where we take a look at alpha, betas, and abandoned. Basically, what that means is we're looking at early access games in, the beginning stages and right through into the ones that have no longer been touched by the devs. And currently, we are about to look at one and chalk it up into the category of abandoned, and that title is Grav, developed by BitMonster Inc. Launched in January 2015. Started off so promising. It was being developed by a bunch of devs from, well, I don't know how many of them there were, but they're from Epic, and they worked on Gears of War, and super talented. And yeah, it looked so promising. They came out with a pro. I don't know. We'll call it EA business model, and they had a rock solid Trello, where it had tons of milestones. It had tons of communication, community events, all the good stuff that you'd expect for a game to succeed, and it succeeded very well. And they kept developing it and tuning it and adding more to it, and obviously it didn't it wasn't generating the revenue potentially that the effort was being put into it, and I think most of the community kind of understood that, and to the point where we're kind of our game is dwindling dwindling players and stuff like that. But it wasn't necessarily because anything was broken or anything like that. It was just a matter of people wanted more content, and I can understand that, and I can understand both sides of it. But so everything was looking good up until about July 2017, and that was the last update from BitMonster, and now it's gone completely cold. There hasn't been any sort of communication whatsoever, and the issue, I guess, most of the community has, and myself personally has, is that communication's completely stopped. Normally, if the game's got to, if it's going to stop in development because there's no funds, we need to kind of hear that as supporters. And if it's on hiatus and you really do want to finish it and you want to add more to it, we need to hear that as well. It's hard to as a gamer to put money towards something in development, in hopes that it's going to succeed, and then just have everybody or have the devs just kind of turn their shoulder to us, and not kind of convey that information. Most of us are pretty sensible. I'm a very sensible person, and so when I'm trying to categorize these games in the status and kind of assess where they're at, the last thing I really want to do is say a game's abandoned, because I haven't talked to the devs. But I mean, the thing is, if they're not willing to have any sort of dialogue or any sort of communication with the community about what the true status is of the project, then you really have no chance to change your mind. So that's what this video is all about. It's kind of for me to categorize on my website that this game is abandoned, and to also initiate the discussion within Steam and outside of Steam that, yeah, this game's abandoned. And I really hope it generates some sort of community rallying that maybe BitMonster will hear, and they'll lend their ear to us and say, hey, wait a minute, we're not abandoned. And just, until then, it is what it is, right? So until then, I can't really recommend buying Grav. It's still being sold for $21.99. But it's not being developed, so it's in a state of there's no community dedicated servers ran by BitMonster. There's only a couple player hosted ones. If you'd like to see a playthrough of Grav, or like to see some footage of this, by all means leave me some comments in down below, and I'll pump out a let's play for you. But it's a little bit behind. There's plenty of let's plays out there about Grav, and I decided not to do one about that. But So as it stands, it's in abandonment. Please, BitMonster, if you see this and dispute anything that I've said or whatever, just yeah, I'd love to hear from you. And if it's not abandoned, please let me know, and I'll work on kind of maybe changing my aspect. But for my stance point at early access control, we've got to put this in a category, and the category unfortunately is abandoned. So if you found any of this video helpful and you'd like to see more content like this, subscribe, and I'd like to get some feedback on what I do. Thanks. Bye.